Good evening, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. How is everyone this evening? Yes, yes. We are so thrilled to have you with us. This is our final Invest Ottawa hosted International Women's Month event. It has been an incredible month of March and such an important month in our community, in our world, and work that we do together with so many of you and so many other partners and founders and entrepreneurs all year long. So thank you so much. For those who might not have had the chance to meet me just yet, I'm Sonya Shorey. I have the privilege of serving as Interim President and CEO here at Invest Ottawa, your lead economic development agency, Bayview Yards, your innovation hub. We're so thrilled to have you. We are just delighted to welcome you home here. And ARIX.O, our R&D complex for next-gen smart mobility, autonomy, and connectivity. Tonight, we are so privileged to host How I Built a Successful E-commerce Business, streaming live online across Canada and around the world, and taking place here at Ottawa's Innovation Hub, located in the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. And this is really where I would like to begin, by acknowledging that the land on which we gather here tonight in person and virtually as a community is the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. We are very grateful to have the opportunity to be present in this territory and to come together as a community. Further, I want to respect and affirm the inherent and treaty rights of all Indigenous peoples across this land. We recognize the contribution of Métis, Inuit, all Indigenous peoples have and continue to make, both in strengthening and shaping this community and our country as a whole. For tonight's event, we are honored to have business leaders, entrepreneurs, fellow allies, investors, thought leaders, partners, and the next entrepreneur sitting right there to my left, that beautiful little one who is the next generation. We're honored to have all of you with us here in our region, and then, of course, throughout our online community, in person and online. It's an incredible combination. We have an exciting, packed program for you, but before we begin, I'm very honored to welcome my friend, colleague, and partner, the past chair of the Ottawa Coalition of Business Improvement Areas, or COBIA as it is known, Andrea Steenbakkers. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Sonya.
She does deserve applause. She's an amazing human.
I have a script that I'm probably not going to use at all now because I've talked to a whole bunch of people since I arrived, a lot of familiar faces. And I want to start by thanking you and your team at Invest Ottawa for putting on an amazing month of almost a mind-boggling number of events for International Women's Month. I'm so pleased that you asked Akobia to co-present this event with you, this last official event, I believe, to finish off the month. So, of course, when Sonya asked, we said yes right away. As she mentioned, I'm Andrea Steenbakkers. I'm the Executive Director of the BIA in Barrhaven, but I'm also serving as past chair. I served as chair for 4 years of the Ottawa Coalition of BIAs. I'm not going to go on too much about that, but I know a lot of you probably don't know what a BIA is, let alone what a COBIA is. So a COBIA is an organization that it's a nonprofit association. Actually, we represent about 7,000 businesses across the city in 19 different districts. So that includes suburban, urban, and rural districts. The BIAs engage in placemaking excellence activities on behalf of their district to optimize that community in a variety of ways so that property owners, businesses, and their customers can thrive. So the new economy, like the online economy, like we're here to talk about tonight, and I had the pleasure of meeting a couple of the presenters in the back prior to coming on stage, and I'm super excited to hear about their stories and their journeys. I was amazed just by what they were wearing and their sense of fashion, and I met our lovely friend here who designs her own jewelry, and then I met Josephine and her mom, who I was like, how awesome is it that we can now just bring our children and it's totally acceptable. I think it's absolutely amazing as women that we have that freedom and that we have the freedom to have online businesses and work from home and really have flexibility in our lives. So the new online economy particularly was accelerated by the COVID pandemic. And that's led to many of the bricks and mortar businesses that BIAs represent. They had to pivot to also incorporate a lot more online practices in their day-to-day business. And a lot of residents in the areas, in the districts that the BIAs are in, they too started online businesses. So a lot of BIAs across Ottawa have embraced the online economy and the home-based businesses that are working online, and have incorporated them into their membership as associate members. So I'm not going to go on more than that, but if you are interested, Sonya, I'm sure my contact information is available through ACOBIA, again, Ottawa Coalition of BIAs. Happy to discuss whether you live in a BIA district, if you are an online business owner and you're interested in engaging with a BIA, happy to discuss that with anyone who's interested later. And yeah, thank you for, again, including us as a partner. Always happy to be invited and support and sponsor and promote your events. Thank you.
I just want to say a huge thank you to Andrea, to the entire ACOBIA network. The BIAs have been incredible partners, not just through the very challenging times of the pandemic, but throughout every time in our economy. And they collaborate very closely, in particular with my good friend Paula Hopkins, who you're going to meet shortly at our Small Business Enterprise Center. I have personally valued all the collaboration. We have done so much together. And the pandemic, honestly, businesses would not have survived without the efforts of ACOBIA, the 19 BIAs that are a part of it, and the Ottawa Board of Trade, who joined us in many collaborative initiatives. Sueling Ching was intending to be with us tonight, and unfortunately she had an emergency. So we are here as her two colleagues, partners, and friends to represent the Ottawa Board of Trade and the critical work that they have done and continue to do in our community, together with Invest Ottawa, ACOBIA, Ottawa Tourism, and so many important organizations that are all here to support you, to help you grow, to help you fulfill your goals, and to continue adding the incredible value you do, not just to our business community and our economy, but to our neighborhoods and to our communities. So thank you to every single business owner in this room. If you are current or aspiring, we are all here to support you, and we can't wait to help you fulfill your dreams. International Women's Month is truly all about community, the reason we are here tonight, and it's built around this year's IWD theme, Inspire Inclusion. For those who have participated in other events, whether you joined us at the F Factor, our Angel Investor Breakfast, Elevate International, or so many others, hosted not just by Invest Ottawa and our partners, but so many across the community, you know we've experienced this firsthand. We know that the power of this community is truly inspiring, and this is all about inspiration and actionable insight. For those who might be joining us for the first time, I just want to reiterate that the main message is that only together, as a collective, can we maximize our impact and drive long-term sustainable change. And that is really what we strive to do all year long, and the month of March shines a spotlight on it. We do want to take a moment to thank BDC Capital's Thrive Venture Fund for being our title sponsor for International Women's Month and everything we do in this community. Without your contributions, this just would not have been the same. We would never have had the reach and impact. So thank you to all of our friends at BDC Capital Thrive Venture Fund. A few housekeeping items before we begin. We'll be taking questions during the last 10 minutes of our session today. One of our team members will be walking around with a roving mic, so get your questions ready. We will field all questions online via the YouTube live chat. All event registrants will have access to the full event recording today. We are delighted to share that far and wide to build our impact as much as we can. We will also be taking some snapshots and video footage here at Bayview Yards. Please smile for the camera. And be sure to share your experience on social media. Of course, hashtag IWM2024 and hashtag Inspire Inclusion, all one word. For those here in the Foundry, we look forward to the delicious light bites from La Bottega, local wine, beer, and soft drinks here at our bar following the program. We are thrilled to be partnering with Women United, and all proceeds of this evening's bar will go to that cause here today. So thank you so much for being with us. And with that, let me hand over the mic to Senior Account Manager Joe Jocks, our IWM title sponsor at BDC. Thank you for support and welcome, Joe.
Thank Hi, everyone. Thanks for the introduction, Sonya. My name is Jocks, and I work at BDC on our tech group. Really honored and happy to be here today to represent BDC, who's a sponsor for International Women's Month. Some of the main reasons really why I joined BDC 2 years ago now has been the direct impact that we have with entrepreneurs across Canada, primarily through our growth capital, as well as our real estate and equipment financing and advisory services. That's one of the main reasons why when I wake up in the day, I get excited, because when I'm speaking with clients, I can see the direct impact that we have on a lot of those things. And that's really one of the main reasons why I wanted to be a part of BDC. And basically, I mean, that's essentially what I have in terms of speaking points today. You know, if anyone has any questions that they want to chat with me afterwards, I'm more than happy to speak a little bit more in detail on what it is that we do, what it is that we can help offer, and happy to chat afterwards. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you so much, Joe. Allyship is so critical, and we are so grateful for the inclusivity that BDC has created together with us and the continued commitment that they invest in our community and in founders and entrepreneurs, of course, not just here in Ottawa, but across the country. It's now my pleasure to welcome a very special leader in our community, a very good friend and my colleague, Paula Hopkins, Director of Entrepreneurship. She is a superstar, and I do want to give her a big round of applause for the impact she has on Main Street businesses in this room and across our community, together with Andrea, together with Sueling, and all of our partners. She's someone I admire very much, and I'm just very, very grateful for her leadership in our community and in our corporation. She's going to chat with you about the entrepreneurship programs and offerings here at Invest Ottawa. Thank you, Paula, for everything you do for those here, for us, for our community.
Hi, welcome everyone. As Sonya said, I'm the director of the entrepreneurship team here at Invest Ottawa. Before I kind of go into that though, what I want to know from all of you in the room, just by a show of hands, who we've got in the room. So first of all, I'd love to know if there's anybody in the room that is already operating a business more than 1 year old. Hands up, more than 1 year old operating business. Amazing. Okay, anyone in here just about ready to launch a business? Hands up, just about ready to launch a new business? All right. And anyone in here that's still thinking about it? Idea stage businesses. Amazing. Okay. So I can guarantee that those of you that are in idea stage or just about ready to launch, after today, you're going to launch. And all of you are going to get ready and you're going to launch today. I'm so excited for our event today. You have no idea. So as I said, let's dive in to the entrepreneurship team, because those of you in the room, that's what I'm here to do. And my team is here. Jennifer from my team over here this is what we do. We help support small businesses in our community that are idea stage through to growth stage. That's it. And our main focus are entrepreneurs that are non-technology companies. So it doesn't mean you don't have tech in your business, you do, but it's not your focus. So we focus with traditional product and service-based businesses are the services that we provide. And so if you are needing advice, you want to sit with somebody and pick their brain, we have free business advisors that you can book appointments with and sit and just talk. Right? We offer free workshops and seminars. We have 8 to 12 workshops and seminars a month that we offer. And some of them are in person, some of them are virtual, some of them are combined. So take advantage of our advisors. That's what we're here for. We've got well over 11 different advisors with different skill sets and backgrounds and experiences. as well as our workshops. But the two other things that my team get to do, which I'm super excited about, are our summer company program. It's a youth entrepreneurship program, and I see a couple of them in the room today. Thank you for coming. We launch our program this summer, and we've already accepted almost 15 students, thanks to Jennifer, out of 21 seats. So that's coming. So watch your social media feeds, because we've got amazing youth entrepreneurs that are coming your way. And then we also have our Starter Company Plus program, which is a non-youth program. And so keep your eye out for that. Applications open end of August, and both are granting programs from the province. Enough about me. That's my spiel. Now what I'd love to do is I'd love to introduce someone, because I've had the pleasure of working with Michelle. And in fact, I've worked at this job for 11 years, and I've loved every minute. 11 years here at Invest Ottawa this summer, which is crazy. And I get to work with amazing entrepreneurs like yourselves and like Michelle. Michelle, I'd like to introduce you. She is going to introduce our speakers today, but you will find Michelle back there at the tables called the Better Scalp Company. Please go talk to her later. She is an entrepreneur that has founded the Better Scalp Company, which is, and I wrote it down so I don't get it wrong, because she is amazing. And she has a shampoo that is for people with sensitive skin. She's been in business a year. She started, of course, online. And she has been, just in a year, get this, now in Terra 20. And it is in many spas and pharmacies across Ottawa. So that is phenomenal in a year. Yeah. So Michelle, with Michelle at the helm of this organization, I can tell you that she is shaking up the beauty industry by offering irritant-free products for those battling itchy scalp and struggling with eczema, psoriasis, and skin allergies. So if that's you, her shampoo is for you. So Michelle, I'd like to introduce you and come to the stage to introduce our speakers. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Paula. So I'm Michelle, founder of the Better Scalp Company, and I was actually part of the most recent cohort of Starter Company Plus. And let me tell you, if you recently started a business, you should apply to Starter Company Plus. When I joined the program, I wasn't really sure. I had a lot of questions about the direction of my business. I was really passionate, and I had a product, I had a website, but I didn't really know what to do next and how to grow the business. I didn't know if I was doing anything right. And then Starter Company Plus really helped me get organized, find my focus. I got paired with a mentor who was amazing. I met a lot of great people. And ever since I graduated from the program, my business has only been growing. So I highly recommend it. But now, for the main event, I'm gonna be introducing the speakers. There's gonna be a fireside chat with Komal and Jenn Harper. So, Komal is a contributor for Fortune Magazine and CTV News and the founder of Carseva, a company focused on building individual, economic, and societal resilience through advisory, media production, and investing. She curates powerful experiences and conversations as an interviewer, business strategist, resilience educator, and investor, and was named to Oprah Winfrey's Super Soul 100 list for her work. As an interviewer, Komal has been in conversation with Michelle Obama, Glennon Doyle, Rupi Kaur, Angela Duckworth, and more. As a business strategist and educator, Komal supports the leaders behind the brands and organizations you love to scale their revenue, their impact, and protect their well-being as they work to transform the systems we live in. But before the fireside chat, we're gonna be getting a keynote speech from Jenn Harper, who is an award-winning social entrepreneur and the founder and CEO of Cheekbone Beauty Cosmetics. Cheekbone Beauty is a digitally native, direct-to-consumer brand that is helping Indigenous youth see themselves in a beauty brand while using the concept of life cycle thinking in the brand ethos and in developing products and creating a new segment in the beauty industry called sustainable socially conscious beauty. Jenn Harper has been making a name for herself in the beauty industry for a number of years, but has been gaining popularity quickly after being featured on Dragon's Den in 2019. Cheekbone Beauty's mission is to help every Indigenous youth see and feel their enormous value in the world while creating sustainable cosmetics. Jenn has an incredible story. She's faced a lot of adversity. Cheekbone Beauty went from humble beginnings to now being stocked in Sephora. Yeah. And in 2019, Jenn was named one of Chatelaine Magazine's Women of the Year. So I'd like to introduce to the stage Jenn Harper.
Do I click now? I don't know what to do. Oh, there we go. It's all ready. Perfect. Hello, Ani Boujou. Thank you so much for having me. It is a pleasure to be here this evening with everyone. I'm going to start off by just warning everyone, I do talk about addiction and suicide, and it's part of my story, so that's why I share it. But I always preface this with that information in case anyone's uncomfortable and has to get up. I completely understand and will take no offense. The story is crazy and wild, but I actually had a pop out of bed, middle of the night dream, and all I remember from this dream is 3 native little girls, and they were covered in lip gloss. And when I woke up, and actually, I tell this story, and people always assume because I'm native that it was like a vision, and I'm like, no, this was an actual dream. Like, I was sleeping in my bed, and all I remember on these 3 little girls is their rosy little cheeks, their brown skin, and they were covered in lip gloss, and they had made a mess of themselves, and they thought it was so funny, and I remember this giggling and laughter. And when I think about the brand we've created, that has become such an important part of the story and the journey. But what's really important to understand is, how does someone who has no experience in the beauty space — I was actually selling fish when I had this dream, and literally selling fish, and I have no idea what I'm doing today, and I'm really honest about that. But as entrepreneurs, it's very interesting because sometimes you don't have to know everything. You will learn as you go, and you're going to make mistakes, but you're really just lessons. But this is important to understand, because I think we live in a world where it was designed to maybe make us believe that we don't fit in or belong in these spaces, but we all actually do. But a really important part of the backstory is my grandmother. This is a picture of my grandmother. Her name is Emily Paul, and she survived residential school. So I know in this room, and I know in this country, we all know what that means. At 6 years old, she was taken from our family's community and forced to be in this system till she was 16. And it wasn't a positive situation. She was physically abused, sexually abused, and obviously mentally and emotionally and spiritually abused. And so she left that school with so much trauma. And I've learned this term on my journey called generational or transgenerational trauma, when a person, like in the case of my grandparents, or a group of people, are faced with an event that they are not equipped to deal with, and nor should they have ever had to. And what happens is this trauma was then passed on to me, and then passed on to my siblings, through my father and my aunties and my uncles. And what I learned in my own experience is really important to understand, is that we can then turn that trauma, though. We can turn generational suffering and pain, and we can turn generational trauma into something more positive. And I believed, when I was learning about her experience and how much it impacted my life, and to get really personal, I had battled alcoholism for many, many years, and I got sober 2 months before having that dream. So talk about literally being put on a new path. And I really talk about Cheekbone Beauty as being part of my entire life's healing journey. And when I think about their experience and what they had to survive in order for us to be here today, I really think that it's important to know that history and who we are and where we come from. A really painful part of my story was losing my brother, BJ, to suicide in the very early days before launching Cheekbone Beauty. And as much as this is such a painful part of my personal journey, it's really, I honestly think, the reason why my brand has become successful, because I have this innate, massive passion inside of me to make this successful because of something he said to me while he was still alive. I'm telling him about Cheekbone Beauty, and we're gonna create these products, and we're gonna use a portion of the profits to do something to support our Indigenous community. Now, from the moment I had that dream and woke up, I wrote in my laptop that I wanted to make a product. At the time, it was just a lip gloss, and use a portion of the profits to do something to support my community. And I wrote down that night to start a scholarship fund that was essentially in honor of my grandmother, learning about her experience. And I'm so proud to date, Cheekbone Beauty has donated well over $350,000 back to organizations that support Indigenous youth. And in particular, in 2021, we didn't initially start off with a scholarship fund. That came many moons later, because in the early days, we were just looking for organizations we could support. We started off by supporting the First Nation Child, Family and Caring Society, and then Inspire had finally agreed to work with us. They generally didn't partner with brands who were bringing in such small donations, but thankfully they paid attention and agreed to this partnership. So we've given out now 16 scholarships to Indigenous youth, and we do this every Orange Shirt Day or every National Truth and Reconciliation Day. Cheekbone Beauty launches a new product based on the color orange for obvious reasons, and we use the entire profits from that project to create this scholarship fund. And it's something I think that I'm the most proud of, and there's been a lot of incredible things on this journey, but I truly believe that this success is because of my brother, and I will honor him forever for his wise words, because those days on this entrepreneurship journey, it's going to be wildly painful. And if you're like me, I'm probably crying at least a couple times a week because something bad has gone wrong. And if you don't cry, I'm sure you'll express that emotion in another way, but it's not gonna be this incredibly wonderful journey. This is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, and I've raised 2 children. and this is so much harder some days. As much as but the point I'm trying to make is that when you don't have something like a big why, the reason your business exists, if you're just doing it for money, sad to say, it's probably not going to be as beneficial. One, I think the community, your customers, people will start to recognize your passion when they see it in front of them. A moment where our brand became extremely grew exponentially in Canada was when we were on Dragon's Den. I encourage everyone to go do that. Try it, go show up. I tried out 3 times before I actually got auditioned in front of the producers, and then eventually decided to actually be on the show. But there was a lot of rejection along the path of Dragon's Den, so don't give up if this is on your journey. Those investment deals are terrible, so I don't encourage this for the investment, but it's an excellent marketing tool. And I always talk about this because it's about practicing and flexing that courage muscle and just showing up in those places where it's really hard for you to do. So how does someone who's selling fish start a cosmetics company? Well, it turns out that it wasn't that difficult. I know so many people in the beauty space, or when I talk about that, they don't like me to share this part. There's something called white label or private label. So because of globalization, anywhere in the world, if you think about a product, there's probably some manufacturer already out there ready to sell it to you in their packaging and with their formulations. And this is how we had to start. But this is not the vision of the brand that I really wanted to see in the world. However, I don't come from generational wealth, quite the opposite, and I only had very limited funding. To be exact, it was $500 when I started. So I remember doing a 12-week entrepreneurship accelerator program, and at the end of that program, they gave all of us a $500 check. So I ran home, and I remember showing my husband this check, and I'm like, okay, it's not our money. I'm going to use this money, and registered the business, launched the Shopify store, took pictures with my phone, and we started this business using these products that I wasn't absolutely in love with, but they were good enough at this time. And another point I'd like to make when I share this story is sometimes that idea of perfection, well, it doesn't exist. And sometimes you just have to start to really test the market, if you will, or test your idea. In our first year, when I'm still selling seafood, which I did for 3 years after starting this, because this was truly a side hustle, and no one was gonna pay attention to someone who's in the beauty industry that wasn't an influencer or a celebrity, so I knew I had to prove myself. So I was working literally 80 to 100-hour week works for 3 years, and that is not sustainable, and I do not recommend it. But that's what it took to get us where we are today. And in the first year, from that corner of my basement, starting with $500, I know we sold 125K online. And then in the year over year, we were just doubling. And by year 3, and that's when I recognized that we were clearly onto something here. There was a community around this brand and this product. But what we had to do was really improve the product, because I started getting asked so many questions from our community about ingredients. Where does the mica come from? Who's being impacted by the shea butter? So there were so many questions that I could not answer. And the type of person I am, I had to deeply dive into this world of how to make makeup and figure those things out. And we found an investor, or they found us, Raven Capital, thankfully, because in 2019, I was able to quit my job. Raven Capital came at us with a $350K convertible note, which is an investment term I didn't even know existed, but they were giving us this money to basically go prove this idea. And I had this crazy vision of building this brand that was based on sustainability, based on my Indigenous roots, my Anishinaabe culture. So using Indigenous teachings and wisdom in how we make and create all of our products at Cheekbone Beauty is literally the path we've chosen. This was the first picture that I actually paid money for. It was $3,500, in case anyone's interested. That's the first time that I didn't use my phone. This was a professional photography because we were launching in Sephora, Canada. And we transformed our entire brand from how we think about packaging. We're in an industry that there's these conversations around sustainability and clean beauty. There is no regulatory body around the world defining what clean beauty is, and so a brand needs to do that and fully understand exactly what their ingredients are and where they're coming from. And also packaging, it's a big part of this beauty space. It's notorious for waste. There is so much waste in the beauty industry. So our mission and vision at Cheekbone Beauty is to help Indigenous people see their value in the world, where we're crafting sustainable colored cosmetics that don't end up in a landfill. And so we choose wood, we choose paper, we also choose PCR, which is post-consumer resin, which is second, third life plastic. We don't vilify ingredients, and we don't vilify packaging, much like a lot of marketing agencies encourage beauty brands to do, because that's something that the customer can easily grab onto. But instead, we choose to educate people on how and why we're using what packaging for what formulation. And you can find all of this information in our websites, or when you follow us online, we're really open and transparent about our formulation process. This picture is really important to me because as an Indigenous woman, I feel like there's this narrative of what we're supposed to look like. These are all Indigenous people in this photo. And one of the most irritating questions I've been asked over the last 7 years is, if our brand was just for Indigenous people, I would be a really stupid businesswoman if it was, because we only make up 5% of the global population. And so no one would ever ask Lancôme if that was just for French people. And so I want to make it really clear that Cheekbone Beauty is for all people. Thank you. What sets us apart? I just talked about, we got this funding. We built an actual lab in our facility in St. Catharines. We hired a chemist. We work with sustainability scientists and experts. And we became a B Corp certified company back in 2022. And that was over a year-long process. This now means that our lawyers, their lawyers are involved, a lot of seals and certifications. It just takes a brand a check to literally send to an organization to get that seal of certification. This was a 1.5-year process. Our entire supply chain is vetted, and now we have a legal obligation to both people and the planet before profits, and being a B Corp aligns extremely well with our Indigenous value systems. And these are teachings that sometimes I'm like, why didn't our people have a big book of where they wrote all the teachings? It was all orally passed, and one of the ones that we use regularly is this idea of what we do today, how will impact the next 7 generations. Or our idea of success within our Indigenous communities is about how much we give back versus how much we attain for ourselves. And so these are things that we incorporate through the entire ethos of our company and our brand, and even to the point where we use the 7 grandfather teachings from my Anishinaabe roots as our core values at our company. This is an incredible moment that we had. It was a campaign called Write the Story. I love sharing this. It's about asking when you don't know what the answer is going to be. It could be no, it could be yes, but you should just ask. We won $500K worth of pro bono work from Sid Lee. That's the creative agency in Toronto that made the We the North campaign for the Toronto Raptors. So they got to work with us during this campaign. And we then entered this and won the idea competition through Bell Media. So that's Canada's largest media organization. We won $1 million in ad spend through this. So we were on billboards and bus stops across the country. However, Sid Lee, who has billions of dollars and doesn't understand a small business when you start working with those large organizations, said, okay, so we have everything ready. All we need from you is $150K for the hard cost for this shoot for the commercial in the Yukon. And we went back to them and I said, we don't have $150,000. Like, this is not in our budget. All of this whole project was not in our budget whatsoever. But I got the courage again and went and asked Sephora. So this was the year we were launching into Sephora. We knew we were going in their .ca, but I went at them with, what if we got to go in maybe 5 of your flagship stores with just 1 lipstick, and then that lipstick became part of this campaign. And these larger organizations can be sneaky because they did just want us in the .ca, but I wanted more, obviously, right? You want to be in store and so told them about the $1 million. Sephora is really smart and they know that's a lot of money when it comes to advertising. And they said yes and gave us the $150K to shoot that commercial. If you have 90 seconds, please YouTube Cheekbone Beauty, Write the Story. It's the most beautiful commercial shot by like 95% Indigenous cast, crew, directors, the food service. We actually found out that we saved that catering company up in the Yukon because they were going out of business during the pandemic and after. And because of our work for them for that weekend, they were able to exist at least another 3 months. This is a really powerful moment for us. You all know Shopify. They were the #1 business on this list this year in 2022 for innovative companies in Canada. So we built this lab, and I really need to share with you, I failed grade 9 and 10 science, not just grade 9, but it didn't get any better in grade 10. And now I own a lab and employ scientists, which is really wild. That's just proof as an entrepreneur, you don't have to know all the things. There's really smart people that you can hire to do those things. And so we've been working on this project for 4 years called the Niagara Project, and we're partnered with Henry of Pelham, the winery, and we have taken their waste from grapes, stems, skins, and seeds, and we are extracting active ingredients that are actually just based in our region because it's from their Baco Noir grape, which is nowhere else around the world. It was a European vine brought over here to North America with a fruit that was traditional to the Niagara regional lands, which is very important to the story that we're going to create when we launch this product. But these are active ingredients because everyone knows when you create beauty products now, it's not just makeup, it needs to be skincare at the same time. And for 4 years, we've worked on this, we've proven it works, and it's absolutely insane when you think about the things that are possible. Because when I was in this corner of my basement 7 years ago, I had no idea that I would have the ability to work on really exciting things like this. And then this happened last year as well. Has no financial value, but I just thought it was really cool that I made this list of 100 women of influence with Jennifer Lopez being on this list. And on the other page was Kim Kardashian, and my picture was actually bigger than hers. So I'm just saying. But this, I firmly believe in manifesting and vision boards. On my vision board from day one, I had Sephora as my partner because they are the largest beauty retailer in the world. And I also had an article from Entrepreneur magazine up there because I said to myself out loud that one day I want to be in that magazine and talk about Cheekbone beauty. And I'm going to finish off with one story. From the beginning, I've talked about how much representation matters. And to be honest with you, I don't know if I actually knew what that meant all those years that I've been speaking to this. But we had this incredible moment with this campaign we did with Sephora Canada last year. It was this PR, like a very shocking PR campaign where during the month of June, we sent out these boxes and the campaign was called #LostOver, and we won 2 major beauty awards for this. And when the influencers opened the box, there was 3 lip glosses inside called E. coli Kisses, Mercury Shimmer, and Luscious Lead. And then a note that said, "You wouldn't put that near your lips. Why should First Nations people have to?" And Sephora donated all of their profits for that month of June back to the Water First organization, which is an incredible organization that helps educate our communities on clean water and clean water systems for the future. And then I got to go visit all of the locations in June. It was 15 or 16 across the country at that time, because we grew from those 5 stores, then to the 16 with now only 5 items, and now we're in 60 with 27 items, I believe, on the shelf. But I got to meet this little girl. And when I walk into the Eaton Center that morning, I remember looking up and I'm standing by the fountain and I saw that picture, the $3,500 picture, in the middle of the mall, like the size of a transport truck, and it said Cheekbone Beauty now available at Sephora. And I had no idea Sephora was doing this. We didn't pay for this. And so, of course, I'm standing at the bottom of the mall crying because I'm like, oh my God. And never as a little girl, when I would go to the Eaton Center, I grew up in a portion of my life in Native public housing in Scarborough with my dad. And we would go to the Eaton Center because I've always loved going to the Eaton Center. But I often remember being accused of stealing with my dad or someone arguing with him about our status card. Never did I ever think that I would have a brand available in a store like Sephora. And so when I met this little girl and her little brother that night, you know, it's all Sephora clients coming in. And so the conversation was about makeup. But I met this family. And she was 12 and she was already so spunky, telling me about her TikTok account and how it had to get shut down because she was going too viral. And her brother's like, no, it wasn't. Like and their mom and their auntie were there and they were just so sweet. And I'm driving back to St. Catharines and I just remember thinking, oh my God, this is why this matters so much. Because her and her little brother are never gonna not wonder what's possible for them because they just met a woman who looks like them, who comes from a community like they come from, that has a brand available in Sephora. Thank you.
I think we need actually a standing ovation for that one. That was unreal. Thank you so much, Jen.
Aw, thank you. Thank you.
It's such a pleasure to have you all here today for us to dive further into this conversation. And as we digest all of the incredible things that you just shared with us, what a remarkable, remarkable journey, Jen. And in this journey of yours, it's such a roller coaster, so much of it. And the part of your origin story comes back to mental health. And entrepreneurs have some of the highest rates of depression when it comes to societal markers. And I'm curious how you've supported your mental health in this journey and what that support system looks like for you as you've navigated both the highs and lows of the entrepreneurship experience.
Yeah, that's such a good question because it is a roller coaster ride, as mentioned. I have a really strong sobriety routine. It's I tried all the things. Of course, I was in rehab, then AA. I've tried everything possible from that addicts have to go through. And for me to get well was this morning routine that I now have and created for myself, where it's prayer, meditation in nature every single day. And wherever I am in the world, and if I can't be outside, there's a form of physical fitness happening somewhere to some degree. And that's just how I start my day, because I feel like I have to be that full circle of, emotionally, mentally, spiritually healthy before I can go on and do the work, I guess, right? Mm-hmm. But that's my routine and how I stay healthy now.
That's such a useful tool to hear because we've had morning routines, really thrust on us in entrepreneurship with all of like the advice folks online who are just like, make sure you come back to that. But it really is a sacred routine that it can become for us, especially when we lean on it in this way and in such a supportive way for yourself. When it comes to that also transition in the early days, I was listening to an interview that you did and you talked about how in your shift from moving from addiction to alcohol to work, and in navigating the grief of losing your brother, work became part of the addiction for you. Can you tell us a little bit about what that experience was like? A lot of us, especially early on in our businesses, feel like we can't stop. If we stop, then it's all gonna go away. So what was that journey like for you in navigating that shift of those tendencies towards work, and how did you kind of come out of that?
Yeah, that was, I had to get really honest with myself because I clearly transitioned alcoholism into workaholism, right? I'm saying that right?
Yes.
Yeah, and it was a couple years in, because those 3 years I was deep in it, and nobody in my family would say anything to me. And I think this is kind of funny, because I think about this now, that I started this business and I didn't, I would tell them people, and I think it's crazy that I would actually say, yeah, I'm starting a cosmetics company, and nobody in my family would be like, you're selling fish, like, nothing. But I think they weren't saying that because they're like, she's not drinking, like, let's let her think she's gonna have this cosmetics brand. And the fact that they didn't stop me, and I think they just gave me grace of like, okay, like this is what's happening right now, but she's trying to figure it out. And thankfully I'm surrounded by an incredible husband, children, mother, brothers and sisters that just gave me that space to like, I think, ease into it and then recognize that I did need to slow down and create some balance. And that was after leaving my full-time job from the seafood company and going all in. When I got the investment, it was really hard to do this actually during the day, like 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, because I was so used to working on Cheekbone at night and on the weekends. And then I remember that first week in August, we went on a holiday, and I literally collapsed when we were away, because I was just like, this is the first time I've actually taken a vacation in 3 years. Wow. We had an investor now, and I was like, okay, now my full-time job is Cheekbone. And we went on this vacation not recognizing how much I needed that, and got back to it on the next week. And I was like, okay, well, this is my new life. And then I thought, oh, wow, you need to create some balance. And then that's when I got really serious about not overworking.
Yeah.
But it is hard to do.
It's really hard to do, especially again, because it's not only at that point, I'm actually curious, at that point when you got the investment, went full time with it, did you have staff yet? Were you working with contractors? It was just you?
Just me.
Just you.
And a marketing agency. A marketing agency and some bookkeeping help, but just me, yeah.
Okay, so in that very early phase, what was it like? Okay, actually, let's start there with Raven Capital, because I would love to know, what was that experience like? It's like, what was that onboarding experience? What was the meet and greet experience? How did that relationship develop, and what was pitching like?
Yeah, so I recognize Indigenous women, talk about women getting investment, it's like what, less than 8%?
Yes, and for women of color, it's like 0.34% or something like that.
Indigenous women, it's 0.0000000%. So I am like that one person that's gotten money. And I recognize how crazy privileged that feels and important it is. But so we met each other, and they were new and a startup, and thank goodness they were. In some ways, I'm like, they didn't really, know this world. And so I think timing, my favorite podcast is How I Built This with Guy Raz, and he always asks that like luck, work, or hard work thing. But timing is such a big deal for these things. And so that timing just worked out. And I don't know if it was a different time in history, if that would have came together. But we met, and they really wanted to work with us, and I really wanted money. So I was just like, and it felt like the alignment was there because we were all speaking the same language when it came to like social impact. Like that is the key, because when you talk about people and planet before profits, not a lot of investors want to, like, profits are first, and stakeholders are the only thing. We're seeing this happen with massive organizations right now. That those are the most important things to them, and let's not kid ourselves about that. But we're in this space at Cheekbone Beauty that we're a B Corp company on purpose because we want to create a company where we're actually putting the people and the planet before profits. And I still live in this space of, is this even possible? We're trying, right?
You're the litmus test for that. You're part of that first generation of B Corp certifications. I remember when I was working in social innovation, 2012-ish, it was like just the start of that certification process. So we're just over a decade into this journey, and to see large-scale companies that are scaling actually certified, showing that it's possible, we're still proving that right now, and you're still part of that equation. But so to clarify, you've met each other, talked it out. There was not even a pitch.
No, I didn't. I had to share with them what I see for the future. Because when you're using, just to be clear, white label, private label, one, being in a Sephora boardroom in 2018, never in a million years would those products go on their shelf. You need to come to them with innovation and something very uniquely positioned and special. And an investor is like, this, anyone can do this. And there was an indigenous brand out of the United States using the exact same white labeler as we were. So and that was Raven in our conversation. I was like, look, this is already happening, but I have this idea to actually create our own formulations from our lab and then have them co-packed at a partner, whether it's in Canada or now we partner with a lot of people in Italy. But that was the idea. It's like, no, let's make our own formulations. And then even further was I wanted to make a raw ingredient, hence this active formulation that I'm talking about, because what happens in the food and beauty space is all of our ingredients have to go on the box because of Health Canada, FDA, the EU requirements. And so a great chemist can actually reverse engineer many formulations. So if we made our own raw ingredient, that would make us very uniquely positioned in the market. And that was the pitch that I did talk to them about. So they really, and I've asked them, I'm like, why did you invest? Because there's been hard times on this journey. And like every investor, I've heard other investors say this, we invest in you, not the actual company, which is really interesting.
Yeah, and it's something I've heard across the board with other companies as well. This both shows the power of network, and that sometimes we can get caught in the spreadsheets or in the decks and think we need to move this line or this box, but we got to get it off the page or out of the deck and into the real world and into the relationships that we're building. So when it comes to network development, something like meeting an investor who's happening to start up, who's got to focus on indigenous products, like you said, it doesn't just happen. Is it luck, timing, or opportunity? What all of those things are? So what's your ethos when it came to network building in the beginning, and what does that look like now for you?
Yeah, so now I do a lot of this, like speaking and going to events. One, because I'm talking about Cheekbone Beauty. It's our brand. I'm trying to build this brand. We're small in the grand scheme of things in the beauty space. We are absolutely nothing. Like we are meaningless. And so my goal is out there to make it not meaningless, right? And I used to, in the early days, show up at events and just try to talk to as many people as possible. Some of the most incredible relationships we have at Cheekbone Beauty were because of events like this. I met Doug Langmuir, or I didn't meet him, I met his friend, who he co-founded Bite Beauty with his ex-wife, and now sits on our board and literally provided me a playbook of how to get into Sephora because he sold to Sephora in 2014. And that never would have happened should I have not showed up at one of those events. And so this is so important. It's so uncomfortable. The omnivert? I'm not like in,
yes.
Yeah.
Ambiverts.
And so it's challenging sometimes to go up to people you don't know. I would spend at some events, sometimes like 20 minutes in a bathroom stall. Because you're just
We all know that prep time.
Yeah.
It's like, okay,
so hard.
let's go.
Yeah.
I can do this.
Yeah, and there's people you want to ask the question to, and it's like, do you have enough courage that day or that moment to do it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that boldness, obviously cultivated over time. You're telling us about the 20-minute bathroom stall ritual, which we'll stack onto the morning routine ritual. But what cultivated that boldness in you? Was it something you saw modeled? Was it something that you longed for, that you built for yourself? How did you develop that boldness?
So I think I will give, my mom's not even listening, but I have an amazing mom.
We'll send this clip to her.
Yeah, since I was a little girl, even at my wedding, she's telling the story how I was like the most beautiful baby in the nursery. But she literally raised me with this idea that I was something special. And everyone needs that. Everyone needs that. And so I give that to her.
Shout out to moms or those who see that light within us and cultivate it and let it exist in the world, because without someone witnessing that, and this is a reminder to people in the room, if you can be the person for somebody to see that light, elevate that light, not dampen that light. We all know what it feels like to have that light, tampered down, or people trying to to humble us. But for those people in your life who you can elevate, who can help lift, like they could be on this stage. One of you could also elevate into that way for yourself. So kudos to mom for that
Moms
boldness.
are the best.
And I have a feeling you were like the cutest baby in that in the
was.
unit. That's the story we'll go with. You shared the one statement that your brother shared with you that you always come back to. And, we need to do this for the next generation. We need to do this. Our youth need this. When you think about, we talked earlier about Angela Duckworth, and you love Grit, the book. And she has this concept of a superordinate goal, that like North Star goal that keeps you going all the time. You shared that that's really built into Cheekbone. Sometimes that North Star can waver. Can you walk us through like those moments where it got really, like you were in the thick of it, the mission maybe didn't pull you forward in the way that you needed it to. How did you pull yourself forward out of those moments?
Yeah, so there's so many hard times that you're gonna go through, and I think I just give myself the time to be like, whether it's sad or angry or like whatever the emotion, I give myself that space. But I literally think it's, as an Indigenous person in Canada, like resiliency is what we own, man. Like that's ours. Like,
Yes.
Come on, if there's a group of people that are resilient, and I really think that it's in my blood to like get up and move on and figure it out despite anything bad happening. And so that, there's so many times where and it's mostly when I'm just tired. Like if I think about it honestly, when something bad happens, but it happens on a day that I happen to be exhausted, and I do feel like I want to give up, and then in a few minutes to an hour to the next day, it's like I will never give up on this. I will never give up on this. And that there's conversations that we've had around our boardroom table this past year, because it in the e-commerce space, and I know that this is a lot of how businesses start. It is really tough right now. We started this in the day of like $5 Facebook ads, and it was a freaking gravy train. We were growing our business at the rate, like the conversion rates were phenomenal, and that does not happen anymore. And now it's like you transform, and as this being more of you shift on the journey, like you said, right? And so we're like, we're going to be a scrappy enterprise now, where we're not buying customers anymore. Like we have all these crazy conversations, but it's just allowing the time for you to feel that way in that moment, and then just moving past it and through it. And I just don't know how to describe it, but being resilient.
And that resiliency is clear through the campaigns, through the products, through the award-winning, marketing campaigns that you've done. And it's a through line in the business. And I think that's what makes both the business resilient and obviously, like you shared yourself. Something that in my work as a resilience educator, I learned is that for communities, intersectional communities, a huge part of our resiliency comes from our heritage, from our lineage, and that in the throes of colonization, that's one of the first things that colonizers try and take is to dissociate communities, to take our languages, to make us more fragile. And in this reclamation, we're feeling that power kind of emerging. And so can you tell us and describe to us, you've shown us, but I'd love to just hear it again about how your heritage, how your culture, how your identity, it moves through you through this work, and why that's so important to you, and why that might be important to others in this room who also come from intersectional backgrounds.
Yeah, I think when you hear the history and the story, in 2015 when I had that dream, I read the final report for the TRC, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and it was like 500 and something pages long, so this was a lot of nights of like, I was 38 years old, living in Canada, and I'm like, this, like, no wonder I'm so screwed up. Like, it just gave me, like, it was removing all my shame. Everything was being removed as I read through these pages, and, you know, the shame of who I was and where I came from, which lived in me for so long, which then perpetuates addiction and more shame and more shame. I've now been able to vocalize all those things, and that has literally lifted these weights off of me. And so I don't know if it's this combination of all of those things, but just like learning the facts and then learning that, okay, this is it, but here's what we can do, and that we can move through that, and that actually speaking about it has been such a big part of the healing process.
Thank you for sharing that and for stating it in that way, because you turn that pain into art. You've turned it into this representation that we're seeing. You shared a story about a young girl who came home and found a postcard.
Yeah.
Can you share that story?
Oh my goodness, this was like really in the early days. I'm like, where did you find that? You're a really good investigator. A mom who adopted an Indigenous girl, and she was 10, sent me this message after she ordered our products, and it was actually a campaign we did, and there was 5 Indigenous models that all looked different. One of them was actually my cousin, and she sent the picture of the postcard and how her daughter went to bed with the card because she'd never seen models or representation that looked like her. And she was like, I was like, oh my goodness, like we need dolls, like, and we have them now, thankfully. But this poor little girl's going to bed with a postcard.
The prototype doll.
Yeah. But yeah, just so, and those moments have happened on this entire journey. And you know, when we've transformed this brand to be more sustainable and clean, air quotes always when I say that word, as defined by us, I can't believe now, not only are we doing this for representing a community, but I just received a handwritten letter from someone about how they've had an autoimmune disease their whole life and love makeup and have never been able to wear it until our brand. And so talk about, you know, providing social impact, but actual product impact. Like we're shifting what's happening in the beauty space. And what's happened in our space for so long is like this area of natural, because we're like 98% naturally derived. That's what we base our baseline for our
Can you also share why that's important to you with your own usage?
My personal struggle, I have extremely sensitive skin and could never wear eye makeup around my eyes for more than a couple of hours. And when we started to develop products further into this space, moving away just from lips, it was really important that we understood, as I said, took a deep dive into ingredients and what they mean and what they do and how they work, was removing things that were irritants. And so that's what we've done, and just recognizing now that that part didn't only help me, and we have to do a better job as a brand talking about that, because one, it's a ton of education, but now feeling the impact on that side of things is really powerful. So I just feel so fortunate that our brand has provided just such big impact, and even though we're this small, right, we get to do these things, and that, I guess no matter what happens, that will always be what helps me get out of bed every day, right?
Absolutely, and I just see the image of the young Indigenous girls with their, you know, lip gloss in your dream, and it's reality now, and that's such a beautiful thing to think about. Something that you were talking about backstage when we were chatting is your shift to organic marketing, and sort of you're showing up a lot as a founder online as well.
Yes.
I hope you do share the sensitive skin story, because I think that'll resonate with a lot of folks to know that is even more of an integral part of the brand. But what is it like to be a founder who has to evangelize a brand and build a business simultaneously? This is really, in my experience with the industry, with entrepreneurship, and having interviewed over 100 entrepreneurs at this point, like a very gendered thing, where a lot of women founders feel the need to be influencer alongside a business owner and scaling it. Can you share what that experience has been like to wear those hats back and forth in that way?
Yeah, and I don't feel like I wanted to ever do that from the beginning. Like I did not want to. But when you look at the data and you see the engagement that comes with that, the reality of, oh, of course, I want to know who I'm buying items from, and I want to hear the stories. And so we just recognized how powerful it was and how important it was. And this is what the people want, right? I don't understand it. It was like, who wants to watch a 47-year-old woman put eyeliner on? I don't know, but
We do,
but
I
they
guess.
do.
Yes,
And
I love
everybody
it.
do. And then I do it too to all kinds of other people. So it does feel uncomfortable, but I have an incredible team that does our social media. And they make it very simple for me. They're like, this is what we're doing today. I'm literally, so it's not that I have to do all of it alone. I'm not doing it alone anymore, which is great. And a lot of direction from, okay, this is what worked, this is what didn't. And our weekly team meetings at Cheekbone Beauty are literally, we like tear apart our email lists and the segments we send those to, we tear apart our social media posts and stories and literally where it worked, what happened and why it didn't, to really figure out what works and what isn't, because this is the thriftiest way to create attention and grow our customer base has always been through social media, and for us it's still a big, very powerful tool. And so we really focus on that. And of course all of those, I always say with marketing, it's like, it hurts my head because it's like layers. They're like, well, what works? I'm like, well, you need your PR layer and then you need your social media layer, but all those social media platforms, and you can't put the same thing on this platform as this. And then the email marketing, and you can't just send the same email to every customer. You need to like go in and dive into what customer read it. Like we found out this week that the lip category customers that live in California all bought the eye product that we posted to, like that was the highest. So it's just this massive constant engine of figuring out who's paying attention and why. And I have to be in a lot of it, but we get a lot of UCG content as well. But yeah, definitely when you're small, it's you, and it's hard work. It is exhausting. But we're I only do that on Tuesdays. So like now we know generally when, actually I had to do it yesterday.
time blocking.
Is today not Tuesday? Like what day is it? It's Tuesday? Yeah. So normally I do that on Tuesdays, but I had to be here, so we did it yesterday.
Okay. So the systems, the time blocking, it sounds like all of that is a really useful aspect of scaling your
Yes.
business. How many solopreneurs or like 1 to 2 team member businesses do we have in the room? Let's see your hands. And how many are 2+ businesses? Yeah? Okay, so let's go to the roots because we've got a lot of very, very early days. So tell us about like, you got the funding from the investment company, and then you entered the space of, okay, I'm going. How did you make that first hire? What was the first hire outside of the marketing agency? And what was it like to start delegating in order to scale? Like, how did you keep the vision of scale while also realizing like the spot that you were in at that time?
Yeah, this is so interesting because this is so hard to do, I think, for regular people. Entrepreneurs that are visionaries, not so much, because I would hire people, our first chemists, and total chemist brain, analytical, and I remember them coming into my home, and they're like, I'm like, no, this is like what's happening in I was like, oh my goodness, like you can't see this. And then I recognized, I'm like, you can't work here. do you know what, because yes. They could not see it. And keeping that of like in the moment, the things you need to do, which is for me, clean the toilet still some days, right? Yeah. And then still think about, okay, like going global in Sephora, this is what this is gonna look like, and here's what's gonna, like, it's very interesting that I think a visionary style entrepreneur can do that, but I've learned that regular people that I hire can't do that. Yes. So it's like, then I have to talk differently to each individual, and there's some people that work for me that do get it, and I can have those kinds of conversations with them. But then there's some that you can't do that because it really scares the crap out of them. Yes. You can't do that. So very interesting. And I don't know how it happens, but it's just how my brain is always working and thinking about those next big things and moments that are on this path and on this journey. But it's staying in the moment is like just a regular calendar, right? Like these are what we have to accomplish this week. And then for me, it's that sort of pie in the sky thinking happenings. A lot of time in my alone time, when I'm sort of planning out product development for us, it's one of the most exciting things I think I get to do is thinking about and right now I'm obsessed with making something go viral on TikTok, right? Like, because that's what
Okay,
happens.
everyone go to the Cheekbone TikTok. There are
Tell me
videos
something to
dropping in the
make
next
so we
few
can go
days
viral.
that you need to pay attention to.
Yeah. Oh, yes, because we're like telling this dramatic story right now on TikTok, right? Yeah.
Yes.
And
How many parts? Like 85 parts?
we were joking. We're like, it's going to be part 47. And then we were like, let's mix up all the parts so people are, I don't know. We were just copying that one lady that did it, and,
Yes.
and it's working. But these are real things that happen within a brand. It's just obviously being very creative of how you use and tell those stories to create engagement, right? But yeah, it's lots of fun.
And so that first employee.
Yeah,
Who
oh, sorry.
and how?
You're probably like, stay on track.
Not
Jen.
at all.
I'm the
We are
worst.
loving all of the information that we're getting poured into.
So Lauren, who was my mom's friend's daughter, was my first employee, and because it was still in our basement, and so I was really cautious. So like, who are you bringing here home? I have 2 children, and for a long time, it was like almost a year when we got funding before we moved into our space. And my family was just so used to like 8 people sometimes being in their house. Like one of our employees, it was Michael, and he didn't speak English very well, but he was great in our IT stuff and helping us. But I remember him like eating in our kitchen, and like we're just like living around the employees of Cheekbone Beauty. So it was kind of funny and enjoyable and so much fun. But Lauren was a family friend and the first one that came in, and this was after Dragon's Den. So we got the funding August 2019, Dragon's Den, season 14, episode 1, and we knew we had to hire people. So there was 2 people that came in, Lauren and Jackie were like really there to like pack and wrap and help ship orders. Because before it used to be like my daughter, like this is awful to say, I think she was 12 or 11 at the time, but she would be like packing orders in the family room. And
Well, she's studying business at U
yeah,
of T
she
now,
is,
so I mean,
yeah.
it was a good training
Yeah.
ground for her, I'm sure.
Yeah, she was funny. My husband and I were on a trip in Spain, and I remember I'm like, are you doing the orders? And she still has a very funny sense of humor. And she's literally like throwing products, because she's on, like we're on we're on like FaceTime or something. And so I could remember her throwing products around the room, and like all the like address labels that were coming out of the machine. Because I'm like, no, you don't do that. Like, keep it neat and tidy, right? But she was doing that on purpose to like freak me out, because I was halfway across the world and couldn't do anything at that moment to stop her.
We love children
Yeah.
and how they come for us.
Yeah.
I don't know that yet, but one day I will.
Oh, yeah, you will, and they do.
On that note, we probably have a lot of moms in the room as well when you started Cheekbone 2015, your daughter would have been around 9-ish?
9, yep.
And your son?
12.
12. So what was
Yeah.
it like to have, you're like, here's our third, I hate calling a business a child, but in this
It really
equation, yeah, we'll go
really
there.
is.
But when you were like, hey, everybody, here's your new sibling, what was it like to create space for your business, literally in your physical home? Which, like, shout out to entrepreneurs, because that's how we start. So never feel like, I don't have an office, I can't do this. I don't have the right, like, technology, I can't do this. You start from where you are, period. And you really did that with $500, a Shopify store, and registering your company. But how was it to, have your kids be that age specifically, and then introducing this new sibling to them that was the business, and
They
how you
didn't think
managed that?
they're like all those people say, how's your little business? Because even them, these 2 children would be like, this isn't a real business, it's out of our house. Like, so they took on the attitude of the rest of the world. It wasn't until, it was so funny, I remember in 2018, I was invited to like a women in business roundtable in Toronto, and the Prime Minister, I don't know what you call a Prime Minister, it's terrible, I'm in Ottawa, well, the Prime Minister. And,
JT.
Yeah, that's not what we call it. And so I went, and I remember my son, like, he's like, oh, wow. He's like, okay, this must be real, right, your business? And and he was probably maybe at 14 at that time when that happened. And then it wasn't until, I remember a couple years ago, we discovered Ryan Reynolds follows Cheekbone Beauty, and he doesn't
And
follow.
Blake Lively wore it to the, what was it? The
The
Super Bowl.
Super Bowl,
Yes.
And so when I shared that with my kids, and they, of course, didn't believe me, so they have to go, and they're like, oh my God! They're freaking out, and they're like, okay, this is
Deadpool! You're legit, Mom!
Yeah, and they're like, your business is real now, Mom. Like, and then, of course, with the Super Bowl thing, my daughter is a huge Swiftie, so she's like, you are this much closer to Taylor Swift because of her bestie being there. Yeah, but those are like, it's funny now, and I was in Yorkdale with my son a couple weekends ago, and I saw him on the side take a picture of the Cheekbone shelf because he's 21, right? And I was like, did you just take a piece? He's like, yeah, I put it in my Snap, right? And I was like, aw, so cute, right?
That's so
I was
nice.
like, you like it. Yeah.
And as a reminder to folks who might feel like, oh, is this taking up too much space in my life, my business? Am I doing, enough with my kids? There's always that inner battle that happens. But I feel like that moment is a reminder that like the work you put into both Cheekbone and pursuing your dreams and your passions for yourself has paid off in massive dividends.
Oh yeah, and they're watching. The best thing we can do as parents ever, I could say things to these two till they're blue in the face. It's the example that we lead 100%. I know I brought my daughter Fallon to a Niagara Women's Business event, and I won Social Impact Brand of the Year. And she was, I think, only 12 at the time, but she woke up the next day and at the event, she's holding my award. But when she woke up the next day, she's like, in my dream last night, I won my award, right? And I was like, for what? She's like, I don't know, but I won it, right? But so we just don't know how, they are soaking it all up, and it is so important, parents. Our job, it's so hard. It is hard, and it's very much like running a business. But I would say the parenting one is the most important one, right? And they are watching everything, and they do feed off of it. And I know my son recently took on a job with a bigger firm. He's an electrical apprentice, and he said, oh, I used your example in the interview process, right? And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, it was there, and I'm like, you're such he knew it was a woman-founded electrical company. And he was like, oh, my mom's an entrepreneur, right? I was like, oh, okay. I was like, but so they are watching, yeah.
They are, and leveraging, which
Yeah.
is great.
They do. Yes. My daughter is starting her paid internship this summer at BMO because they got us tickets to one of the games in the summer. And she's like, I'm going to come with you, and I'm going to network, because she's in business school in Toronto at Rotman. And she's like, I need a job. And she literally just found out yesterday she got the job for her summer internship. So they are totally using, and it's only Cheekbone that we got into this invite for the BMO, this soccer game thing, right? So
And it's a reminder that for a lot of us, we're the first generations to be allowed to be Nepo babies and, have these opportunities come our way and leverage them, and that we should allow ourselves to do that, to use the opportunities that come our way and how important that is.
Yeah.
So I want everyone to start thinking about your questions. I've got one question or one or two left before we go to the audience, so get ready out there. And so I watched the Dragon's Den pitch, and I feel like in retrospect, there was a lot of things I wanted to say to the Dragons for their response in the moment. Also, Dragon's Den producers are here tomorrow, so if you have a business that wants to pitch, come back here tomorrow to pitch your business. Wow. And like Jen said, she pitched 3 times to get on the show. So even if you're not ready, just come and practice.
Yes, yeah.
Sonya told me that earlier. I don't think it's not fake news. It's real news. It's real news. Come back here tomorrow. It's with NACO, and the producers will be here tomorrow. So I see some faces being like, oh my God, am I going to do this? Yes.
Do it.
You're going to come back tomorrow morning. Ask Sonya for more information later. She's in the back corner. But you got offered $125,000 for 50% equity in your company, and that specific investor was like, let me help you scale beyond the Indigenous community. And the way that I felt, the anger I felt, and the rage that I felt in that moment was immense. And so in this moment, I'm just like, with how you've scaled the company, with sure, how wonderful that was as a marketing opportunity, but how frustrating that must have been in the moment to be in the room, to have shared your story in the way that you did, to have Leslie Hampton and these others showing the Autumn Peltier lipstick, and what was the other one that was at the time, Mrs. Universe, Ashley calling Bull's lipstick. I just was like, wow, they didn't read the room, and I know they're doing so many pitches, but the anger I felt. When you look back at that, how do you feel? What was it like to leave that room? And now, looking back on that, how proud are you of what you've built and how it's transformed, and that you didn't say yes to that offer?
A couple, yeah. So, yeah, it's very, what is the predatory, I guess, the style of investing. But I get it.
Yeah.
Now I recognize, when I think about the future and what I want to do as an Indigenous businesswoman, that possibly could mean Cheekbone becoming an Indigenous beauty conglomerate and buying other Indigenous beauty brands and growing. And so when I think about it from the perspective, like if it was my money, of course you want to get the best deal ever. So I kind of look at it from that perspective. But I think it is for entertainment purposes, because I'm like, you can't be that shady, Vincenzo, right, in real life. Yeah, they're just horrible offers. And what I love was Arlene and Michelle literally were yelling the best advice, that you're just too early, because that was the actual facts, to give up any equity. So giving up the equity is such a big deal. We've since, like Raven is now, what are they in for? I think 1.8 million to Cheekbone Beauty. They've invested since, and so they're a serious partner, right? Yeah. We're in this together. We laugh. We're like, we're in it till the bitter end, or the glory days at the end of it together. And so it's just about finding the right one, because when you give up a piece of it, that equity, it's very valuable, and you just want to be with the right person or people doing that. And so, yeah, it's so scary. But you know what? As an entrepreneur, you just want your thing to grow. And I probably would have taken some money from some mafia person if they would have gave it to me. Like, you're just so desperate. You're like, I just want this to grow, and I just need a little cap. So it's so scary, especially in the early days, because you don't know what you don't know back then. It's just, obviously, I've been on the path now, and I know so much more. And it's funny when I think about, I was like, now we need like 6 million. Who's going to give us? And it's like, that doesn't even feel like a big deal saying those numbers anymore. But in the early days, I was like, whoa, that would be a massive amount of money.
And you leverage like close to $2 million, or for the Bell for $1 million placement, the $300K, the $150 from Sephora. I'm sure asks have ranged even bigger since then, or in different ways. And so this is a reminder to everyone in the room, like, don't be afraid to ask. I had this pact to myself last year. My husband made me do it, where it was like, ask for one thing every week related to your business or your growth, and it landed me at the state dinner last year. So I was like, okay, this works. So everyone, make sure you add that to your to-do list every week. Have I made an ask? Have I swung for something? So my last question for you before we go to the audience. There's a lot of solopreneurs, early stage business owners. If you were in this crowd today, early days, 2015, 16, try to soak up as much as you could to be in this space, in this room. What do you wish someone on stage would have said to you that night or that day?
I think I found the right pieces of information wherever I was at that right moment. And I really want to be clear about this. I have no skills, like, honest to goodness. I don't know anything more than anyone else does. The only thing I've done for the last 7 years is do consistency well, because every day I've woken up and worked on Cheekbone Beauty to some capacity, whether it was while I was still doing it the side hustle or when I went in this full time. That was the focus of every single day for the last 7 years. And when you consistently do that, I don't believe you can lose. Like, I believe you will only win if you keep doing that.
The compound interest on your business is you showing up every single day.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jen.
Thank you.
Yeah, another standing ovation for this lady.
No, for you too. Thank you.
And it's time for audience questions. So we've got a runner with a mic. I also have a second mic up here if you need to use it out there. Hands up. This is open.
Oh, boy.
We've got one right up front. And then we'll go to the back.
Hi, thank you so much, Jen, for this amazing and very enlightening talk, and Komal for moderating. You're so impressive. I'm Giovanna Mingarelli. I'm a tech entrepreneur and also happen to be on the board of directors for Invest Ottawa. I very seldom ask questions, but I was so inspired that I felt like I had to. So my question for you is, I noticed in your presentation that your products are all vegan. I happen to be vegan, and I only wear vegan beauty products. And I know that it's a growing industry, actually quite lucrative. I was wondering if you could tell us a bit more about why did you choose to have your products be vegan, and how has it affected your business?
Yeah, that's a great question, because there's been a lot of battles, especially with Doug. Bite wasn't a vegan brand, and there's a lot of incredibly great ingredients that are not vegan and that are considered natural and safe and all of those things. And he was really adamant in understanding, and all of the research was just showing that this, even though people don't know why they want vegan products, they are buying them. And that was what the research was showing us. And they confuse it with cruelty-free. For some reason, they're two different categories and segments, but there's a lot of confusion. The consumer just hears these punchlines and taglines and doesn't actually understand fully what they mean. However, I think even the non-vegan community believes in vegan products, and we've seen that. So we chose, it took us until we transformed all the formulations that we could then assure everyone everything then was 100% vegan. But we've definitely seen it as our business has gotten more successful. It's been over the time that we've become 100% vegan, or truly been able to define who we are and what kind of products we sell, right? But yeah, it's been helpful for our brand, and it's literally, I think, a movement that a lot of the younger generations are really paying attention to, and that's why I think it's also very effective.
Gen Z stewarding
Yes.
us to all be better consumers. Thank you for that question, Giovanna. We have one in the back row, and then we'll come up front.
Well, hi, my name is Whitney McGoggin. I am Cree, Indigenous from USG. I am actually a business student studying at Algonquin. I study business management and entrepreneurship. I'm on my last year, actually. But
Yay.
anyways, I just wanted to say, like, hearing your story really inspires me. Like, it's like pretty amazing. Like, I would like hearing your story. It made me like want to cry because it's like such a nice representation we have, you know. But,
It's okay.
But
I
my
cry all the
question-
time.
Yes, and we're here with you.
Yeah, my question for you today was, what advice would you give to Indigenous youth who are aspiring to be an entrepreneur?
I really think that if our community seeks out mentorship, it's really important, and in particular in our communities, because I think a lot of incredible mentorship happens in the home sometimes, but then when you think about in the business space, that's a whole new world. And so I would advise you to seek out mentors and mentorship for sure, because that's going to help you on your journey. And when you think about the roles you're going to take in business spaces, think about, and I've shared this with my own daughter, is like, start somewhere, but then also shift into different industries and segments so you can sort of play around and figure out really what you want to do or what you want to bring into the world.
Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Jen. So mentorship and having the courage to try different things. Yes. So I've pointed to this gentleman in the back twice. So would you like to go next? Yes, thank you. There's no mic back there, but yes, there's one coming your way.
Hi, my name is Didi, and first of all, happy International Women's Day. Month. It's a whole month.
Yay,
And-
thank you.
And thank you for, letting some of us guys in. So,
We need all the men in the room so that
Yes.
y'all can hear it as well. So thank you for being here.
so that being said, Mrs. Harper, again, thank you for the wonderful story. I'm not going to be long. I just have two questions. First of all, from $500 to more than $100K in the first year, even before we even investment, can you tell us a little bit about how that happened, like the practical, technical thing that were done? Because you weren't the first one to sell online during that year and selling cosmetic too. So how did that happen, right? So that would be my first question. And my second question would be, what is the biggest factor that contributed to your growth, like the actual business growth? So what is the biggest factor that contributed to your actual business growth that other entrepreneurs can duplicate? Because we cannot duplicate your story. We cannot duplicate your personality. But for such a growth, like, what would be something that other entrepreneurs can duplicate?
Yeah.
Thank
Great
you.
questions, and I love your pants.
I know, I was going to say the same.
Thank you. We're matching some colors.
The
already.
So, as mentioned, we started this in a time when there was inexpensive digital ads, and that's how we do it. The entire idea of lookalike audience was how I was doing it. I was the one, I literally figured out how to do this on my own because I didn't have anyone to help me, or I thought the money to help support that. So I would mimic brands that I assumed my customer would be interested. And my whole entire method was this concept I created based on this idea of two avatar target market consumers. One was Nikita. I made these people up, and the other was Isabella. And Nikita and Isabella, they met in university. There's a whole story I have created around this. They're not real people, but literally these two avatars. And she's non-Indigenous, and Nikita, of course, is Indigenous. And what we're learning in this time and space was this is in academia, was where I knew a lot of people understood what happened to Indigenous people and that they would truly be allies to our community. And so the allied customer was the first one we were seeking, as well as the Indigenous consumer. And so targeting specific areas around Canada and the United States and using those really inexpensive ads to grow in that first year, that's how we were able to achieve that. And then scaling, yeah, I was like, again, it's just like this constant layered of marketing. And we've got really lucky with a major retail partnership with Sephora in Canada. And the growth we've experienced last year was our growth in the United States through JCPenney. So we're in 600 JCPenney locations in the United States. And that was a PO that was $1.2 million from one customer. And this is where in Canada you recognize we can't stay here and just do business here forever. Our growth and scaling is going to happen in the United States. So we've had opportunities despite e-com sort of slowing down. We're building that back up right now because we've really figured out this incredibly strategic plan to continue to grow our own e-commerce business, but it's also now these really effective strategies to grow in retail. And then just, it's such an expensive play, the retail world. So really understanding that you're gonna need a lot of money to do those things is really important. I don't think the average consumer knows that a brand pays for listing fees, and you pay for all of the shelf space. And then when you work with these partners in the retail world, you pay into all of their marketing programs, because if you don't, they will kick you out of their store. And so you have to incorporate all of that into the budgets. But it's just these, you know, when you think about all of your distribution channels, these are the things. And then we have smaller wholesale accounts within the United States in particular, because we have an exclusivity deal with Sephora right now. But it's I think the recognizing of we want to grow in e-commerce, but we knew retail, especially so through the pandemic, we grew in a big way because we were already there and knew how to play that, and then got very stale when the 2021 thing happened with privacy issues and the digital ads over the last few years becoming a lot more expensive to play in because these big conglomerates have billions of dollars for these digital ads where we don't. And so we've just had to figure out new ways to do it. For us, it's a lot of influencer marketing, UGC, like there's just so many things involved that it's never just one thing, right? It's all of the things.
I choked on water earlier, so that was fun to hold on for that. Thank you, and thank you for those very specific questions. All right, I can talk again. We've got one more question up front as our last question.
Okay.
So, fantastic story. I saw the name Aina or Aina. It's one of the wisdoms. So that's my company name as well.
I know what.
So that means mirror in South Asian, in our language, Hindi, Punjabi, you know. What does it mean in the Indigenous areas? I'm very, very curious because it's also a beauty platform that we're building. So
all of those lipsticks, that was called our Sustain collection. It was the first product that we chose to transform, so sourcing our own raw ingredients from around the world. And every shade is named after the Indigenous word for land or earth from a different part of North America. So in Hawaii, Aina means land or earth in their native language. Yeah.
Well, it's a wonderful, wonderful brand. So very, very happy to meet you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jen. And I just want to say that the legacy of 7 generations to come and 7 generations before, Cheekbone is certainly going to have that lasting of an impact, if not longer. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Jenn Harper.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. And I'll take one photo here.
Oh.
Absolutely amazing. Well, we get a few last photos. I just want to say sincere thanks to these amazing leaders. If you see her, you can be her. This is one of my most amazing and favorite sayings, and you are both so inspirational. It was an absolute privilege to have you with us. I'm so grateful for everything you shared. Thank you so, so much. Thank you to those who are joining us on the live stream. We are going to draw the live stream to a close. Thank you for being a part of this very special event.